the entirety of the composition became a behemoth of music. Every single section of the track, little by little, started to pile up, creating this fantastic, extremely emotional, and intense piece of music. God damn it, that was good, right? Hello there and welcome back to the channel. Today we're finally gonna be analyzing and reacting to Depeche Mode's In Your Room from the fantastic album that is Songs of Faith and Devotion. And spoiler alert, as you can tell, I truly happen to like this song a lot. But I mean a lot. And also spoiler alert, still I don't consider myself a Depeche Mode fan. But I will tell you why later on the video, so stay tuned for that one. So, if you happen to love Depeche Mode, or if you happen to like music that actually is fantastic, well, stick around because the song is badass. But if you are new to the channel, well, I welcome you because in here we analyze the music that we love from the perspective of an active musician and professional music producer, using language that everybody can understand in a way to expand our knowledge when it comes to music production and songwriting. So, if this is your jam, let's rock and roll. Here we go. So here we go, In Your Room by Depeche Mode.
In your room, where time stands still, or moves at your will, we let the morning come soon, or we leave me lying here in your favorite darkness, your favorite half-light, your favorite consciousness, your favorite slave.
Sorry for interrupting, but you know the drill. Where to begin with this track? This song is simply fantastic. It's beautiful and haunting at the same time, don't you think? Because it has plenty of elements that makes it feel dark, kind of evil, and at the same time sexy and dangerous, right? So cool. The first thing that I want to draw your attention to is, did you notice that there is something going on quite cool with the sequence, the effect, well, not the the effect, no, sorry, the sequence. The synthesizer playing the sequence at the beginning, the tong, to tong, tong, to tong, tong. Could you realize that there was something going on the sides? It's something called delay. Delay is basically speaking a device that we use to recreate, or not to recreate, to add repetitions to a sound through the use of artificial methods. In this case, they are using a delay that is doing something known as a ping pong effect. It's basically speaking, the source, the sound goes into the effect, and then the effect does this. Delay. See what happens? We're getting repetitions of my voice from one side and the other, while simultaneously my voice is still centered, or is in the center of the stereo spectrum. Let me show you with this example. I'm going to try to recreate the sound. Here we go. Welcome to Logic Pro 11. This is what is known as a DAW, which stands for Digital Audio Workstation. This kind of program is what you use to create, produce, mix, and do all sorts of audio manipulation. So yes, it's what we use for making music. Now, I'm going to be using this guy to host what is known as a virtual instrument, which, as you can imagine, is an instrument or a replica of an instrument recreated through the use of a computer, right? So here we go. Right now, I'm going to be using Mariana, which is a very cool sounding bass-driven synthesizer. It sounds like this. Now, in order to get it close to the sound of Depeche Mode, I'm gonna be using this effect. This is a delay unit. This is called ripple delay. It sounds fantastic. I'm gonna be playing back the track with the effect off, and then I'm gonna insert it. Turn it on, okay? See what happens. Very similar, right? Awesome. Interesting, right? And that effect actually gives this particularly interesting rhythm pattern to the whole track. Even though we don't have drums yet, you kind of start to feel that there is some form of rhythm going on. It is thanks to the interaction between the different notes being replicated by the delay, plus the bass coming from the center. That was a very clever use of the effect, I gotta admit. Secondly, the use of the different pads and synthesizer playing a little bit more of a string effect, or how can I put it, more harmonic rather than a rhythmical, adding plenty of tension. And also, given the fact that the song itself, structurally speaking, without going nerdy on you, it's using something known as a drone note. If you pay attention, you'll see that the tong, to tong, tong, to tong, tong is constantly playing, while the rest of the orchestration is actually adding more notes and changing in character. That happens because that particular note, the one played by the sequence, it's compatible with all of the different chords being played on top of it. Very cool, right? That has this particular emotional impact on us, the listener, as being more haunting. One of the songs that uses this effect or this technique is also coming from a similar artist, is Kate Bush. The track in question is Running Up That Hill. You'll see that she also does something similar in the vein of this one. But the effect is totally different. In this song, we feel that this haunting and kind of mysterious effect. So cool. Then the vocals. I happen not to be the biggest fan of his style, but I can't imagine Depeche Mode having a different singer, being very frank. He is Depeche Mode. And please remind me the name of the singer because I'm terrible at this. But I love the way he's singing. Is very kind of, how can I put it? It feels effortless, don't you think? It's quite sincere, if that makes sense to you. Also, the use of effects in his vocals are very pronounced. For example, he has reverb, which is this, reverb. And as you can see, is adding a little bit of an extra tail to the sound of my voice, while also making it sound stereo. This effect is something that we use to recreate the sound of a space through artificial methods once again. But in this case, it's been used not to make the sound of his vocals feel that like he's inside of a room, in your room, get it? That was terrible, sorry. But it makes it feel like he's inside of a gigantic cavern, like a cave of some sorts, adding more tension and also distance, because this is actually something very important when it comes to the use of effects. When you're mixing and producing music for that matter, effects can be used to not only create the dimension or proportion, but also distance and also emotion through the positioning of the sound of the vocals in this case in relation to the rest of the music. See how it, once I press play once again, pay attention to how far he kind of feels when the rest of the orchestration kicks in. Okay, so let's continue because the song is badass. Here we go.
In your room, where souls disappear, only you exist here. Will you lead me to your armchair? Or leave me lying here? Your favorite innocence, your favorite price, your favorite smile, your favorite slave. I'm hanging on your words, living on your breath, feeling with your skin. Will I always be here? I'm hanging on your words, living on your breath.
Sorry for interrupting, but damn it, that was intense, right? The entirety of the composition became a behemoth of music. Every single section of the track, little by little, started to pile up, creating this fantastic, extremely emotional, and intense piece of music. God damn it, that was good, right? Now, let me try to break down a little bit of what I just said because I had to let this track play for longer because, damn it, it's so good. And also because the emotion is what keeps us intrigued and attracted to the music that we're listening to. First and foremost, whenever I listen to music, I happen to be affected quite heavily by the emotional delivery of the track that I'm listening to. Let me elaborate more. If I'm listening to sad music, even my demeanor, the way that I speak starts to be affected by the sadness of the music that I'm listening to. If I listen to something that is fun or exciting, even my face changes. I'm crazy. That's probably the reason why I ended up doing this as my job. But wherever, what I'm trying to say is that this track gives me a particular emotion during this section because the beginning is quite intriguing, or how can I put it, mysterious sounding. But then it becomes angry, but not angry in the sense of Metallica, for example, or Slayer. This is much more of a very, very profound and sad leaning anger, like the result of something very, very dark inside of you, and you're kind of reacting to it in a very emotional way. Make sense? I hope it does. Now, let's take a look at the screen because it's time to analyze the mix, and I will try to elaborate more on what I just said through the use of the visual mediums. So here we go. Welcome back to Decibel. In front of us, we got the analyzer that we like to use to, analyze music through the use of a visual medium. In this section, we got the frequency range analyzer, which is displaying in front of us the loudness of each of the frequencies that comprises the human hearing range. We got here 20 all the way down to 20,000. You can see that this is a very low-end driven track. Plenty of energy on the low register. Why is that? The kick drum, even though it's not massive sounding, has plenty of presence. But also the bass, particularly now that the track got this super groovy and amazing bass line. Please remind me the name of the bass player because in this track he's killing it. Super cool. It's very, very energetic and it has to be present in the mix. And it shows because it is thanks to the interaction between the bass and the drums in particular that this track becomes what it is. Then, if we take a look at the screen once again, you'll see that also we got plenty of mid-lows. We got a lot of energy coming from the toms, especially during this section that I stopped. We're going to continue listening to the track, of course, but once I press play, pay attention to the tum, 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 because they are big as well, super huge. Also, I gotta point out at the beautiful use of the stereo field. It's super wide. They are moving stuff around the entirety of the time, keeping yourself not only interested, but kind of trying to follow everything that's going on. Adding tension and also adding this sense of being lost amidst chaos. Get me? I don't know exactly what the song is about because I'm terrible at lyrics. I never pay attention to lyrics, believe it or not. But the music makes me feel lost. Get me? And it's due to the excellent use of the stereo field, which is what happens in between the speakers, but also how great the use of effects, such as the one that I mentioned at the beginning of this analysis, is across the entirety of the composition. You got plenty of electric guitars, not necessarily sounding like electric guitars. They are playing through effects, and that's the beauty of it. Super cool. Now, the rest of the stereo field, the rest of the frequency range is not as pronounced as the lows. This is what you would call, a warm sounding record. There is not that much high-end energy. That's actually, in my book, very, very pleasant. I'm not, for one, somebody who is a fan of very, very highly detailed sounding music. But don't get me wrong, this track sounds beautiful. This is a very good mix, by the way. Everything feels correctly positioned in relationship to the rest of the instrumentation. And this is a very dense mix. I would love to know as well the name of the mixing engineer for this track because this is excellent. Now, let's take a look at the second section of Analyzer. Here we got the dynamic range analyzer, which stands for the difference between the lowest point in volume in comparison to the highest point in volume of the track. And this is where the song makes itself fantastic or present. Because look at this. This is the beginning. See how tiny it is. Because the higher it goes, this blue blob, the louder the track was at that particular point in time. So see what happens when I start to take us closer to the first section, to the end of the first section, sorry. The volume is gigantically increasing, but it's progressively speaking moving upwards. That's super clever because you can hear it. I didn't feel the need of pushing my converter here with my audio device louder because it feels natural. And once again, through the use of this of volume, we as mixing engineers can also push a song to feel differently. When something is loud, it becomes exciting. When something is quiet, it becomes personal and introspective. And don't tell me that this song is not introspective, right? See what happens. Because the track, little by little, is ramping up in volume, but see what happens when we hit the second half. God blessed. This is incredibly loud compared to the beginning. See? This is absurd and sorry for shouting, but see what happens. That's what I meant with me being affected by music. This is insane, but this is the reason why it hits you so hard when the drums kick in. And here is where the song begins to escalate in tension and emotion. It is beautiful. This is masterfully crafted. What a great piece of music this is. Yeah. Okay, let's continue. I'm gonna press play once again. And please pay attention to all of these details because everything I mentioned is gonna keep going and evolving. And they're gonna keep adding even more. So here we go.
Hanging on your words, living on your breath, feeling with your skin. Will I always be hanging on your words, living on your breath, feeling with your skin? Will I always be hanging on your words, living on your breath, feeling with your skin? Will I always be?
Impressive, right? This song is simply magnificent. I can't stop loving it. And look, for those of you who are still asking why I refuse to say that I like Depeche Mode, it's not due to this. I actually love this album. And I discovered it thanks to your suggestions, by the way. The thing is this. I haven't found more songs that sounds like this one. This is the kind of Depeche Mode that I like a lot. But I know that, from what I have listened from them, their music has moved to so many places. And I don't know if among the Depeche Mode fan base, there is this kind of divide of those who like this kind of sound and those who like the other kind of sound and so on and so forth. But if you, which I know you do, happen to love this band, know more songs like this one, please lead me in that direction because I truly consider myself a fan of this album. Okay, now I wanna point at a different effect that is being used at the end of this track. And most of the time it's used across the entirety of the song, but it becomes itself very present at the end, which is once again reverb. But this time around, is reverb being applied to a keyboard? I don't know exactly what kind of keyboard they use for this sound, but it's something that sounds like strings. I'm going to show you what I mean with this example. For this next example, I'm coming back to Logic, and in this case, I'm going to be using a different virtual instrument. This time around, I'm using something that is known as the vintage mellotron, and this is a very cool sounding, I gotta say, a replica of a mellotron, which is already trying to recreate the sound of an orchestra for it to be controlled by one individual through the use of a keyboard. This is very old technology, mind you. So, it sounds like this by its own. But see what happens when I insert the effect in question. This time around, we're going to be working with a reverb. See what happens. It becomes bigger and wider sounding. As you can see, once I inserted the effect into the signal pad of that keyboard, the whole thing felt bigger, expansive, and kind of wider in a scope. Once again, the use of effects, and if I can give Depeche Mode credit for something, is the incredible use of effects. They truly are masters of sound design, and that's not something that is up for debate. They truly are great at that. And so far, from all of the music that I have heard or listened from them, I'm never disappointed in that regard. And I mind that you as well, as a fan, right? So, there you got it. I think this is Depeche Mode at its finest. One of the best songs I heard of them, and probably one of the best songs ever, in my opinion. I truly love this track because it truly encapsulates everything I like about music. It's sad, depressing, evil sounding, dark, moody, groovy, intelligent, if that makes sense to you, because it actually feels intelligent, and meaningful as well. So cool. I can't imagine that this song live is a blast, because not in the sense of it being one of those rock and roll moments, right? But more of a, damn, this is artistic, right? So please tell me what you think about this track as well, because that's the whole point of these videos, is to start off a conversation and well, talk about music that actually doesn't suck, such as this one. So, and again, please guide me towards more songs by Depeche Mode like this, because again, I love this album, I love this song, and I want to believe that Depeche Mode has produced more songs like this. So please, please, please show me the way. Okay, so with that being said, if you want to support this channel, the best way to do it is by, of course, subscribing, leaving a like, leaving a comment, and ringing the notification bell, because subscribing means nothing to the algorithm nowadays. And if you want to keep supporting this channel and push it a little bit further, you can do it by listening to music on Apple Music or Spotify. That actually happens to not sound like these guys, but it has plenty to do with this song. So you might like it, but it's up to you. You should give it a try. And of course, well, subscribing to our other social medias, such as Instagram and X, because that's the best way for you to get in touch with us on a much more personal basis. And if you want to keep the conversation going, you can join our Discord, which is linked in the description to this video. As usual, as every single time that I meet you, I remind you that you should never let anybody tell you what to dream about. And remember, I will see you when I see you.